Awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Octopus Electric Vehicles sort of live workshop Q&A with the Kia e-Niro. I was just checking my phone there because Ollie is our secret squirrel in the background, and we'll be looking at all the questions you have throughout the session so that any questions that come up that we need to get sorted in the moment, we can absolutely have a look at and see what's going on. So if you see me looking at my watch, that's why we're doing that there. With me today, we have Cyril, who's brought the car over. Cyril, do you wanna jump out? How you doing? Lovely to see you.
Likewise.
So Cyril, sorry?
So it's been a while.
It has. So Cyril lives really quite local to me, and we've both had the opportunity to drive the Kia e-Niro over the past week or so. Cyril, I think this goes back tomorrow, right?
Yes. I'm picking up in the morning. Had it just for a week, so from Wednesday. First off stay, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the drive of it. Quite surprised, it was very smooth. The build quality is a lot more premium than I think a lot of people would expect from the vehicle. I think when you ever say Kia to people, they tend to have a bit of brand snobbery, but I was quietly impressed by it. Very, very
nice. I completely agree. My experience of it very much was that we know that the Hyundai group, who are part of the Kia group, now have a research facility in Germany.
Yeah.
And I think it's really like they've managed to recruit some top engineering talent, and I think you can completely tell that. What we're going to do today is we're going to give you a brief look around the car. So we're going to stay on this camera for a little bit. There'll be a short interlude when we swap to the GoPro or the Handycam so that Cyril can take you through all the switches and gizmos on the inside. And we should be able to give you a look in the boot as well. Share this with your friends if you think they are interested in a Kia e-Niro. I think it's really interesting. This and the Hyundai Kona are basically underneath the same car, but we shouldn't really say that. Exactly. So just said bigger bit, smaller bit. We're going to talk through that. We'll show you where the charging is, how that works, and talk you through some of the key features of this car. As always at Octopus, the point here is to make sure that when you are thinking about moving to an electric car, you're making an informed decision, and it's clear, it's transparent, and you're making a move to be sustainable. I think it's really important for both Cyril and I to point out that actually getting an electric car can be really tricky, or it can seem really tricky if you don't have a helping hand. And that's what these videos are about. So if there are any sort of silly questions that you have, absolutely ask away, because really deep down, they're not silly because they're coming from a place of being informed. And I think one that we see a lot of is, can I charge in the rain? And actually, on the offset of that, that sounds like a really silly question.
When you think about it.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good question to ask. And the other reason it's not silly is because engineers have actually sat down for a long time and come up with a plan of how that works. I think we should start with the overall look of the car, think about how big it is, have a quick look around there. Cyril, I wonder if you want to take us through that. I think the other thing for me is I'll talk a little bit about the driving experience that I had, because I took it a wee bit away. I took it to Bedford and back to drop my girlfriend off at work. So I got a good run out in it to experience that. But I don't know if you want to talk through sort of the initial outset, the styling, that kind of thing.
The first thing to point out is Kia don't classify it as an SUV, they call it an estate, which is what it is. It's an SUV estate. People might think, what's the difference? It's more profile, like a car would be, but it still has that higher rising feeling like you do with an SUV on there. I still look at it as an SUV because it's still on par to, when you look at for instance, the Mercedes EQC is a similar outline to this car as well. They classify that as an SUV. I think Kia have been quite smart with it in the way they're classified in the car to give you that family look and feel of a vehicle, which is predominantly what this car is trying to capture in the EV market, is that family size, trying to take the kids around, pack a few things in the boot, and it fits all. And it's not too small, and it's not humongous, where it's like, this is the Model X. No disrespect, love the Model X, but it's a bit of a.
But I think to call the Model X an SUV is a bit of a misunderstanding, actually, because when Elon and the team France designed it, they were actually looking at designing something that was supposed to be in between an SUV and a people carrier.
Yeah.
and to talk about, to make a cool people carrier.
Yes.
And to have a cool people carrier, it kind of needs to be an SUV, because there's not many cool people carriers out there on the market. I think you could arguably say that there are lots of really good people carriers out there, or really good minibuses, but they maybe don't look and feel the way that Tesla would make a car. And I think that's probably the important.
Just for practicality, aren't they?
Yeah.
Rather than aesthetics on there. First thing I noticed when the car came was wheels on there. Traditionally, when you pick up an EV, there tends to be that whole thing of let's make the wheels really aerodynamic. They tend to look a little bit ugly. Let's be honest.
Don't mince your words there, Cyril.
I really like these. They have that slightly diamond cut look to them, even though I don't think they are. Good size wheels. I'm not a massive, personally, of 19, 20-inch wheels, because I like a soft, comfortable ride. Maybe it's my age. I don't know. I think I've always been that way anyway. But I found that really came through on the ride of the car. It was very smooth. Quite a bumpy area around here. I think you would agree, being in the London area, there are bumps everywhere. It was literally a smooth ride when I was driving the car around the inner city. Felt really comfortable in it as well. When you look at the roofline on there, the first thing you probably notice is the lovely sunroof.
I don't think we can see that on the video, but if you want to talk people through the sunroof.
So the sunroof is probably one of the things that kind of let me down a little bit. Not massively, because it's not the end of the world. I expected a panoramic roof when I got the car. Don't know why, don't know where that came from, but when I got in the car, I sat in it and I looked up and I was like, first thing I always want to do when I think, oh, I've got a sunroof, I want to open it up and get excited by the sun rays, make myself feel like I'm in a convertible, even though I'm not. Looked at it and it's your traditional old school, what we used to call a sunshine roof. So it's a tiny opening on there. That being said, the windows are quite big bay windows, so you're not going to feel claustrophobic in the car. I didn't sit in the back, so I can't really give the argument case of anyone sitting in the back. But from a driver or a passenger point of view, I didn't feel like I was clustered into the vehicle and tied in.
Yeah.
I think definitely, it was really nice drive.
It's got, I did sit in the back. It does have that sort of slightly Tesla feel of having a slightly higher floor, but that's kind of the case with a lot of cars, a lot of EVs. There's a slightly higher floor and it lifts your leg just a little bit. And to begin with, you don't think there's a lot of support running down your hamstring to the back of your knee. But what you do is just push your feet a little bit further forwards under the seat in front of you, and then all of a sudden the seat meets the bits that don't feel supported. Yeah. I think it's because people are so used to having quite a deep floor, they sort of sit in with their feet really far back, and therefore they think that it doesn't feel comfortable. It's absolutely true. But if they push their feet a little bit further forward and open that knee, then they're absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. The thing that I was most impressed with, I've just written a blog about this car, and I was expecting it to be really smooth. I was expecting it to be really good in the city. I was expecting it to be really good on the motorway as well. But we did some country roads, and I was really impressed with the predictability, how low the weight was. There was not much body roll, and there are other cars out there that have this kind of stature that do roll a lot, and it really didn't, especially on the smaller wheels with that bigger tire profile. Cyril's absolutely right. You're going to get a nicer experience when you hit a pothole, but the car might roll a little bit more, and it really, really didn't. And I was really pleasantly surprised that I think on a small circuit, this would easily keep up with a lot of hot hatches, or slightly lukewarm hot hatches, because I know that the petrol car industry's got a bit focused on building the fastest hot hatch they can. But I think for somebody that's out there looking for an everyday runaround that does have a little bit of a petrol head deep down inside them, they'll be pleasantly surprised with what this actually offers as well, right?
Yeah, I think from a design concept as well, it's not like other EVs like that. It's not built around it, it's built around the other vehicles, and it's just spots it around on there. So when you get on the interior side of it, it's still, it might not like me saying this, but I know what I mean by this, it still feels like a car. Sometimes when you get into certain EVs,
like the one parked back there,
people try to be too different, and sometimes it might be too alien for people when they get in the car. I found out when I got into this, naturally, I knew where everything was. It wasn't like the car was trying to play a trick on my mind for me to get accustomed to it. So I found that concept of it really, really nice. And it's a big car, so you don't really need to play tricks on boats and so forth in there because there is enough room in there, which we'll show you in a bit as well.
Yeah.
On the vehicle.
Should we have a chat about range? Have a chat about some cool features that are on there?
To see what we put on the range was. So for me, I got the car at 51%. Now I don't have the luxury of having a driveway to plug the car into charge. I live in the flats, so I had to take it to a BP station, use a pulse to charge the vehicle in there. I made the mistake which Charlie has told me numerous amount of times. Don't go 20%. So kept on driving it. I did, and then that start point of getting it to the charge was quite long. But what I did find is, until you get onto the regen side and master it properly on the car, because driving previously I had a BMW i3, and having the regen in that was more aggressive, I found myself taking my time to adapt to it. Once I did adapt to it, I found that the actual range was pleasantly, it's right for the size of the car.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people might compare it to your smaller EVs out there, which naturally are going to have a better range and going to give you a better regen, like the i3 did. But in this, because it's a heavier car, heavier weight on there, it did have a little bit lesser space. But
I think that also depends on the battery size, right? And the smaller battery sizes, yeah, are going to be comparable to those city cars. But the big battery size, really, you're pushing 240 miles in it, I felt. And for the one thing that I did experience was that I didn't know whether it charged as fast as it could have. And I think for long distance, proper long distance, I'm talking London to Glasgow, I'm not sure if I'd want to do that without understanding where I could charge a little bit faster. However, for like going down to Brighton or going over to Norfolk, going up to Norwich or something like that, you do that journey. We can't do it just now, but that's something you'd want to test. And actually, I think those journeys would be more than capable. A family day out, car is more than capable. If you're taking it to the south of France, my argument is always, if you're looking at taking a car to the south of France, you're probably not wanting to look at a family car, right? You probably want something a little bit faster, a little bit more sporty, because the idea is to enjoy the driving rather than, unless you're camping. But if you're camping, I was
going to say, depending on what you're doing,
perfect again, because the size of boot and the shape of the car I
think for me, it was that whole trick of what you said about don't let it, if you can, charge it beyond the 50%. Don't let it go beyond that, because you get a quicker charge. I did notice that when I took it back in to charge it when the battery was more fuller, there was a quicker charge. When it was close to the 20%, it was just like, how long am I going to be here? Am I going to sit here forever? Am I going to get a ticket because I'm too long here? It was that thought process behind it. It is a little bit slower when you deplete the battery more, naturally with most EVs, but I would say it seemed a little bit more slower than most other EVs that I've been in that case. That don't get me wrong, like Charlie's saying, for what the car's built for in city driving, doing the like Norwich trips and so forth there, perfectly fine. But anything longer than that, then you might have to rethink what you're looking for, you're needing the car to do, or rethink the car in essence in there.
I really think it's the perfect family wagon, school run, off to work when we can, that kind of thing. Perfect. We did pop out, we did put some details in. That I checked my watch yesterday morning around about sort of school sort of run time, and the amount of particulates we're seeing come back is really scary. And actually we've kind of seen what the world could be like if we all move to these kinds of cars. And I think it's really important to point that out. Before we have a quick look on the inside, Cyril, do you want to show people the charger, how that works? I'll grab the camera and just point that out to people. Yeah, so if you just want to pop that out for us.
Just literally, it's the natural, no hidden trick. Out. The AC and DC, normally connect it on here.
We'll do that. Let's see if we can get a better view of that in there. Oh, we can't quite get that there, which is going to be, let me move the cable and then we'll get that sorted for us. So we'll pick that up. That should give us a little bit more to be able to have a look at that just in there.
Out there. What I really like about this with I don't know, a couple of these I've driven. It's a little bit of a trick to open them sometimes. It's at the right point as well. Thinking about, I think there's been some thought process. I don't know if it's just because that's where they are. Some thought process when you go to charging points. I like personally to be facing the charger when I'm charging, not at the back and looking at it and thinking running around or trying to get the cable around. It's just literally a short distance, plug it in, and it's there.
Well, that's really interesting, because in my time at Tesla, I always used to think about that kind of charging situation. And I always used to think that I never wanted a charger at the front of my car, because it was the place that it got muddy. It was the place that it got like the most amount of grime. And actually looking at having, I didn't want to touch it, but actually that's not happened with this, which is really quite incredible. What we'll do now is we're going to swap over to the GoPro. We'll swap over to GoPro. We'll give you a look in the boot. We'll give you a look in the back of the car. And then Cyril, if you want to talk people through how the car actually works with the switch gear, that'd be amazing. Yeah, should we go ahead and do that? Do you want to wander on round, and I will get this all disconnected? Because of the wonderful nature of being in my back garden rather than in a studio, this is going to take about 30 seconds to swap over. So just bear with us while we do that. Thank you. And let's see, is it just saying GoPro? I know what's going on there. Yeah, give me a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to here. I'm going to take it over to the side of the car and let people see inside the interior. If you want to open the door up there and give that a quick go. Yeah, that'll go.
That's the thing that we used to normally get close to it. Sorry.
Amazing. Can we see in there? All well and good. Let's just double check there. Fantastic. I don't know if you want to have a quick chat around what's in there and what's going on.
Okay, so you've got your your mirrors and your central locking as well in the vehicle. You've got it, I don't know if you can see, on the full handle here, you've got the share presets. That allows you as a driver, you're sharing the car, you have your settings on there, and that comes standard on the bus. So it's not an extra on the vehicle like you do get some manufacturers on here. If we look inside, you can see, if you notice the gear knob on there, or the reverse controls that you've got, it's in a circular motion, so you've got reverse, neutral, and drive. So it's not on a stalk like some EVs, literally right in the center there, which is quite nice and gives you that kind of hardness signal when you're driving in the car. So everything's nice and close to controls on there. And it's not unnatural, if that makes any sense. Sometimes when you go into other EVs, you're trying to get your head around where the reverse is, the drive, it seems to be the opposite way around to how it should be naturally, as you were doing it automatic.
Let's re-give this a go and see what happens this time. I'm going to pull that through there and pop this in there, and then Cyril should be able to get in the car and give us a better look around in there. There we go, Cyril, fantastic.
So you jump in. So like I was saying, so this is your gear control right here. You've got the first drive, simple. Comfy chair, comfy seats, and you've got the inside seat down as well, which will allow you during the summertime, as we all experienced if you had leather, it can be a bit sticky in the vehicle. You've got your release hold for the parking, your handbrake as well, and then you've got a drive mode control here as well. Might get a little bit later on to talk about the drive mode on the vehicle, which I found quite interesting on the car as well. Your normal controls as well for your climate control. It's not, you can use it on there, but it's all integrated in here. For anyone who's a little bit traditional and old school like me, I quite like that. Being able to manually adjust stuff myself and being have the control of it. Quite nice as well. You've got your 12-volt socket in here. You've got 2 charging points. They've got a charging plate in here for your phone as well on there. if you're like me and you're Android friendly, has Android Auto and Apple Pay as well for everyone on there. It's got a keyless drive or keyless start on there, and you've got your start button briefly on the side here.
Let's see if we can let people see that.
So if you miss the seat moving forward as well, it's my adjusting point, which I really like. I know little cheesy things like that got me excited. So on here, this is like a personal thing for everyone. I didn't really enjoy these buttons, but I got used to them quite quickly. So they
look like they're going to fall apart in your hand, and then when you actually use them, they're like, no, they're not.
That's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, I don't know how long that will last with me, because I can be quite heavy-handed. Don't tell my partner that with stuff. But naturally, I thought after a while, like you said, you can see that. And this is what I was talking about, the build quality. This is going to sound a little bit finicky, but little bits like when you touch the plastic on the vehicle. This is going to sound weird, but coming from a Volvo background, when I worked with them, they taught us that when you get into a car, the touch and feel of the plastic on the indicators lets you know naturally, am I in for a better word, a cheaper car or a more expensive car? And they've worked on actually having a good feel on it. So when you touch the plastic on the indicator when you're driving, it feels more like you're in a premium brand, not like when you get in certain cars, you touch the plastic, you know that they've budgeted on that and it gets on the feel on the vehicle. They've got this nice dash black chrome on here as well on the car, which at first I loved. Then halfway through I started seeing I could see fingerprints on there. If you're someone who's really anal about stuff like that, take a nice chrome white with you, just give it a dash on the right there. The screen is a really nice display. Good viewpoints, I personally think. You have your standard navigation by the manufacturer. You've got your radio display. You've got your battery range goal to tell you how to adjust your range. You can even go into more detail with it and actually adjust the settings on there. So when you start the car, you can have it on a preset of, in essence, how much regen level you have on there as well, depending on if you want a normal, if you want a sport. You can probably tell by my driving, Charlie will tell you, I drove on eco the whole time. I didn't even go into sport once. That's how boring my driving style is. I just wanted to see how much range I could get out of the car.
Do you want to maybe start the car up, let people hear? Because it's got a bit of a sing-songy sort of voice, doesn't it? Yeah. Maybe we'll start the car up, let people hear that. And if you drive forward a little bit, we can then show people the boot. So if I pull back and close that so you don't have any problem there. Okay. Keep going. Perfect. So don't say if you want to come around the back, that's probably going to be the best way to do this.
So boot-wise, I'll be honest, I'm the person looking at this car for myself. So I was quite excited to get one to drive, so I can actually really experience it myself. Like, what I would say to customers, when you're looking at a car, if it's a lifestyle change, try and see if you can get the car for a few days to get the full experience of it, which luckily we did on here. So as you would expect, there's storage underneath here for you to put your charging cables, and if you wanted to, some bits in here. You can actually take this and tuck it underneath there. So normally sometimes when you have your load covers, when you take them off, there is nowhere to put them. They've actually designed it so you can actually flip it around and tuck it underneath there so it stays stored away, and you can put the flap over it as well. I did my weekly shopping this, managed to get things like 5 full bags and still have space for little bits in here. So it might not look like a cavernous boot, but just to give you an example, this is the same size of a Qashqai. It's a bigger size than a Golf in the boot as well. So you're not going to struggle for boot space as well when you're thinking about what you get in the back seats as well. That's how I found the usage of it as well on there. You can put the seat down as well. Yeah. Putting the seat down. Just a quick note, be careful with the seat belts so it doesn't dig into the leather. But you can see now how much space you get in there as well. So if you do need that, you can obviously drop the other seat down and use that practicality as well in the vehicle.
I think so. I put the seats down. I didn't put my bike in there, but I think my push bike easily would have got in there with the front wheel off, potentially with the front wheel on. But with the front wheel off, I could have got a couple of bikes in there. I would have been really quite really quite comfortable and happy with that, I think. Anything else you want to chat us through the back to? Should we let people see inside? So if we keep the door open, maybe we'll actually put the GoPro inside and let people have a quick look. So this is what we were meaning. So you'll see that central, what would traditionally be the transmission tunnel there, is a little bit shallower. It's not that the transmission tunnel is not as high as it should be. It's that the floor is a little bit higher because the battery's underneath. And what you should be able to do is, if I quickly take you into the front, you should see that actually those front seats, they've carved out a little bit of a well there to let your heels just sit a little bit lower for a better drive. What's really interesting about that, I think, is that that's a bit of a Porsche thing. Porsche developed that on the Taycan. And Porsche have a heavy investment in a company called Rimac, which do a lot of electric vehicle sort of technology. And the other company that have a big investment in them are Hyundai and Kia. So I think it's an interesting thing that we see similar tech appearing on a lot of the cars. I'm just going to pop you inside here so that you can see the interior and see what Cyril was talking about. Yeah, so you Are we back? I wonder if Ollie can hear us now and send that into us there. And we'll have a quick look here. Ollie, if you could send me a quick message, that would be amazing to let me know if we're back in the room. Ollie, you can hear, amazing. So we had some issues there. I wonder if, Ollie, you can let me know if we can, what bits did we see, what bits didn't we see, what do we maybe need to see more of? If Ollie, you can message me that would be amazing. Wonder where the audio went, just to make sure that we can get that all sorted. It looks as if we had a little bit of a technical malfunction, but that's all the fun of being live. Do you want to move the car a little bit further back there for me, Cyril, to see what's going on there? Amazing. Amazing. So Ollie was just saying that it cut out when we got the car with the GoPro, which was the fantastic bit, right? So what we'll do actually is we'll just go over that. But what we'll do is we'll take you with the big camera, because that way it's not going to disconnect and do anything with the audio. So if I just take us in here, hopefully we can see in there now. Cyril, if you can open that door for me, that would be amazing. And we'll take this in and we'll go in for a wee look in the car. So absolutely. So as Cyril was saying, just in here, you have your dial there that controls your gearing. So putting it in start, neutral, reverse, and drive. And then the other thing we were talking about, which you possibly didn't hear, was the paddles on the back of the steering wheel, which are just here as well. Therefore, the regenerative braking on the car. Now, if you don't know what regenerative braking is, it's a big, scary word that I think makes a lot of people think that there's something magical happening. It's not really anything that technical. What the car is doing is it's taking the energy that has been used to accelerate the car up to a speed and turning it back into energy that it can use in its battery. So it's a little bit like, I don't know how we would say it, but it's a little bit like a dynamo on a hamster wheel or something like that, right, Cyril?
It's I think the best way of looking at it is once you experience it, a lot of people call it your one pedal driving. Yeah, I would personally wouldn't drive that way with the paddle shift. So what they allow you to do is if you hold the left paddle, you can actually use that to brake if you wanted to. You can use that. The left paddles actually hold it for more than 0.5 seconds to take it up to 3. It will actually allow you to use that to slow the car down and brake as well, and just use the accelerator pedal. What you've actually got as well on the right-hand side, if you hold that down for more than 1 second, that will allow it to shift into what they call auto regenerators. So that is where you can use one pedal naturally, and what it will do is recognize when there is a car in front and actually judge how much regen and braking the car needs. So when you start to, as we call it, feather off the accelerator with that, it will start to like slowly brake the car down. And if there isn't a car there, it will judge as well that it needs a little bit more or needs a little bit less as well. Actually, a better way of using it, and I found that when I started driving that way, it was a lot more smoother and easier, especially when you're going up a hill as well. So it's a useful thing to use. I'll say it's one of the cars that once if you do decide to go for it, take the time, read the instruction manual. It's literally a Bible in a stick, but it was quite, yeah, I got in. That's what I was doing basically when I was sitting there and charging up the car. But it's actually quite useful. It looks at the concept of driving with EVs and how you should use the car and teaches you how to use the car correctly. So what you don't find is you start to slam on your brakes like you would normally do on your combustion car. So it's a good way of guiding itself in that way on there. It's worth a read, I'll definitely say. One of my most of the instruction manuals I've read. I'm that type of guy.
Cool. So let's ask Ollie, I know there's a slight delay. Let's ask Ollie if there are any questions that have come in for us to look at.
There's anything, yeah.
We can see, I see that Rob has just taken delivery of his e-Niro today. So he's got in touch to have a quick look and see what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything.
Well, you should know.
I mean, for us.
Does he say which one he's got, the 3 or the 4?
No, it's not. Tell us.
I would say, personally, like I said, best thing to do is, as with any car, when you get into it, sit in it, get a glass of wine, don't drink and drive though, play around with the buttons, and then have a go on the vehicle the next day, obviously, when you're sober. Sorry, that's a really bad joke. Do not drink and drive. Well, what I'll say is, if you sit in the car, I would advise trying the paddle shifts as well and getting accustomed to that with a one foot driving as well. Take your time to set your presets on the vehicle as well as you normally would do. The one trick is look in the modes on the vehicle, the drive modes. You can actually, like I said before, set individual regeneration modes levels you want. So if you want your normal to be a little bit more aggressive, you can actually go into it. So when you press the regen mode, there's a button on the touch screen right at the bottom. Just tap that and it will let you adjust it as well on there.
Amazing. I think it's really important to point out with that regen is that really as we drive along, you'll get really used to that, right? And initially, when you first left off, it's like you're going from like fifth to third, and you get really confused. And if, as Cyril says, if you feather on that accelerator pedal nice and easily, you'll start to learn to really one pedal drive the car and get used to that as well. I'm just double checking with Ollie to see if there's any questions, but I don't think there is anything there. One thing that we could do with this car, because you can see everything, do you want to pop the bonnet? Do you want to move the car back a little bit, pop the bonnet, and we can have a look inside and have a chat around that? Keep going. Perfect. And just pop the bonnet. I think it's in the passenger footwell, isn't it? Oh, no, it's not. It's in the driver footwell. So what we're going to do is swap back over to the GoPro, and I'll talk you through everything that's in that car there, let you see everything that's in there and how that goes. It loves making a noise, isn't it? It's because you've not turned the car off. There we go. Fantastic, fantastic. So Cyril, if you want to open that up for us, while we do that, I'll get the GoPro all ready to roll.
Just by the side of the symbol on the right-hand side.
There we go. Fantastic. So in here, we can see everything that happens within the car. And I think it's really important that actually sometimes lots of people don't really see this sorts of thing. So what we can see here is the charging. So all the charging cables sit in here from the charger, which is at the front there, which Cyril showed us. And all of that runs in here. You've got some coolant, which you do not touch. There's a nice little logo on the top to show you that it's only a man with a hard hat and a spanner that can open that. You've got your brake fluid there as well. Again, you're not going to touch that. That's all sorted. And then the only thing you need to worry about is your washer fluid, which is right here. The rest of the car actually is really simple. So you can see there's a big battery there. That's not the battery that you use to drive the car. That sits underneath, but that's just for turning everything on. The Niro is quite interesting because the Niro as a body shape comes as a plug-in hybrid, a mild hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, and a full EV as well. So you can see there's a lot of space here where normally Kia would put an engine. Not even normally, we should stop using the word normally, but in other situations, they would put an engine in there. But you can see just how much lower this sits, giving it that low center of gravity. And there's not a big, heavy thing in the front here that would have an issue in an accident. What you can see up the top here is there's cables that come in, and this is the charger at the top. So this is what converts your energy from AC to DC and then pushes that energy to the batteries. If we come round here and see, and I'm just going to have a quick look at my laptop to see if you can see. So you'll see there's a big orange cable down the bottom there that goes straight into the battery. I don't know if you can see that now, but deep down in there, that is the cable for the DC charge. So DC charge goes straight in off the charger here and just bypasses that whole onboarding sort of conversion, and that makes it so much faster to charge when you're at a charger. Underneath, you have your motor. So your motor sits deep in the bottom there, which is why you've got all those coolant hoses that are going in and out, but it's not coolant like oil. It's just to keep the metal temperature down rather than anything else. And essentially everything else in there is there's nothing there for you to touch really, apart from your washer fluid. And I think just pointing that out is quite nice and interesting. So yeah, absolutely. Cool. You've got your radar down the front there as well for that, what you were talking about, that automatic regen, which is really quite important. I think I never got the chance to try that out. I'm really looking forward to maybe giving that another go at some point. No, I didn't. I couldn't get it to set up. It might have been that I hadn't had my regen in the right mode to then set it up.
It would still allow you. It might just been, I don't know, on these kind of side of it. Yeah, I tried that. That was not, how can I put it, not an issue. Then sometimes you get in a kind of panic mode. I don't know if they quite get it. But yeah, I found that quite useful. Took it on the A1. That was quite a smooth ride with it, and use it for most of the time when I was on there to see what it was like. What else is there on the vehicle that we point out on there? I think the Android Auto is quite good as well. It's quite useful when I was using it. It also allows it points out with the satellite navigation where the nearest fuel charging points are as well, which is quite useful. I would be cautious with that. I would still use the Zap map with that because obviously some don't work sometimes, which is I know it's a bone of contention for some people. So just be careful if you're using the navigation on there. Still check on your Zap map just to make sure that it's working, and then work with that as well on there. But yeah.
Amazing. Well, I see that Ollie hasn't sent us any questions, so I think we'll drop the car down, and you can get on your way, get the car out, get it back ready for you to come and collect it tomorrow. But moving forward, as you said, any questions that you may have, drop them in the comments. I'll be looking out for those. I'll reply to them. I'll make sure that we're all covered and get that sorted for you. And when you look to get a car, Cyril's one of the main guys that can get that sorted for you. So absolutely, you can see he's got a real email address. When you get an email from Cyril at Octopus Electric Vehicles, it's not some robot we have. It's actually Cyril that's on the call today, which is really quite cool. Amazing. Thank you ever so much, everybody. If you can have a look through any of our other videos, there's a brilliant one about the Fiat 500e where you can learn more about that. And we look forward to doing more of these videos with cars, not like this, but more cars in the future to get you up to speed and understand electric cars just a little bit better.
Thank you.